The book that shouldn't exist. The room was dim, the air heavy with the scent of old parchment and dust. Somewhere deep within the cramped corridors of an Italian villa, a man named Wilfred Voynich ran his fingers along a row of forgotten manuscripts, each one slumbering in the shadows. He wasn't looking for treasure, at least not the kind you could weigh in gold, but for something far rarer. A voice from the past, untouched by modern eyes. And then, he found it. A thick, weathered volume bound in cream-colored vellum. Its pages, over 200 of them, were filled with drawings that seemed to defy reason. Delicate lines shaped into plants that had never grown on Earth. Pools of aquamarine ink surrounding human figures, mostly women, floating naked among stars and strange, looping symbols. The words, if they could be called words, spiraled across the pages in an alphabet no scholar had ever seen before. The letters were elegant yet alien, repeating in hypnotic patterns, as if whispering secrets in a language humanity had long forgotten. Wilfred's heart quickened. He knew he was holding something that did not belong to the ordinary flow of history. Something that shouldn't exist. And yet here it was, warm beneath his hands. But there was a deeper strangeness to this book, a feeling, almost alive, that it was aware of being found. He had no idea then that this manuscript would consume scholars, cryptographers, and dreamers for over a century, and that despite every effort, its truth would never be unlocked. Some say it's because the answers are gone forever. Others whisper that the answers were never meant to be known. And so begins the story of the Voynich Manuscript, the book no one can read, and perhaps no one ever will. A trail through shadows. Long before Wilfred Voynich's hands ever touched its cover, the manuscript had already wandered through the centuries like a ghost, appearing briefly, then vanishing without explanation. The earliest confirmed owner we know of lived in the court of the Holy Roman Emperor Rudolf II, a man infamous for his obsession with the strange and the forbidden. Rudolf surrounded himself with astrologers, alchemists, and men who whispered of secret sciences. It's said he paid a staggering sum, equivalent to tens of thousands of today's dollars, for the manuscript, convinced it was the lost work of Roger Bacon, the medieval English philosopher rumored to have dabbled in forbidden knowledge. But after Rudolf, the book's trail becomes murky. Some letters from the 1600s suggest it passed into the hands of a Prague-based alchemist named Georg Barisch. He described it with frustration, claiming he had spent years trying to make sense of its strange language without success. An idle scrap of work, he called it. And yet, he never let it go. Why? Because something about the book seemed to resist being discarded. Owners kept it close, hidden among their most precious or dangerous possessions, as if they feared what might happen if it fell into the wrong hands, or perhaps the right ones. Centuries passed, and the manuscript would resurface in small bursts of correspondence between scholars, always accompanied by the same confession. We cannot read it. We cannot even guess its origin. And then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it would disappear again, swallowed by private collections or locked in drawers no one dared to open. When Wilfred Voynich finally acquired it in 1912, he stepped into a mystery already hundreds of years in the making, a puzzle that had outlasted empires, kings, and the very languages in which its earliest owners wrote their letters. But the strangest part was not where it had been. It was what was inside. Pages from Another World Voynich brought the manuscript back to London, where it sat on his desk under a pool of lamplight. He turned the pages slowly, afraid that any sudden movement might somehow disturb the fragile thing in his hands. The first illustration was a botanical drawing. At a glance, it looked like any medieval herbal guide, until you noticed the details. The stems twisted in impossible geometries. The leaves were shaped like no plant on earth, and the flowers bloomed in hues unseen in any preserved pigment from that time. Some roots resembled human organs, others coiled like serpents. Page after page revealed more plants, dozens of them, each accompanied by lines of the same flowing, alien script. No Latin, no Greek, not even an obscure dialect lost to history. The writing danced across the parchment in looping elegance, but it yielded nothing to the eye, like staring at music without knowing the notes. Then, suddenly, the plants vanished, replaced by astronomical charts. Circles of stars, arranged in constellations no astronomer had ever recorded. Some pages showed the sun, moon, and stars locked in alignments that, when calculated, did not match any known date in the past 1,000 years. Others displayed strange circular diagrams, as if mapping not the heavens, but some other dimension entirely. More pages, more strangeness. Dozens of small, nude female figures were drawn bathing in green or blue pools, linked by a maze of strange tubes, like plumbing from another age. The women seemed to interact with the water in ritualistic ways, their faces calm, almost serene. Some of the pools were connected to star diagrams, as if the stars fed into the baths. It was as though the manuscript's creator had taken pieces from botany, astronomy, medicine, and an entirely unknown science, then woven them into something that looked coherent, yet refused to be understood. And through it all, that same looping script, more than 170,000 characters of it, flowing without a single correction or visible hesitation. Whoever wrote it knew exactly what they were saying. The more you looked, the more it felt as though the book was not just a record, but an invitation, or perhaps a test. The uncrackable code. When word spread of Voynich's discovery, it didn't take long for the manuscript to capture the attention of the world's most brilliant minds. In the early 20th century, some of the same cryptographers who had broken military codes during World War I were handed high-quality photographs of its pages. These were men who could read the enemy's most guarded secrets in a matter of hours. Yet weeks turned into months, and the Voynich Manuscript refused to yield even a single translated word. At first, they assumed it must be a cipher, a disguised version of a real language, its letters swapped for invented symbols. But there was a problem. In most ciphers, letter patterns and frequencies eventually give them away. Here, the patterns looked too perfect, almost like a real language, but one no human had ever spoken. During World War II, as the Allies fought in the shadows against the Axis, the manuscript found its way into the hands of William Friedman, the legendary cryptanalyst who helped crack Japan's notorious Purple Code. Friedman assembled a small team to tackle the book in their spare hours, a side mission, for minds that could bend mathematics into weapons. Years later, Friedman would admit defeat. He told colleagues that the Voynich manuscript was either written in a constructed language far more advanced than anything seen in its time, or it was nothing at all, an elaborate hoax, a linguistic mirage. But if it was a hoax, it was a perfect one. Too perfect. Even modern AI systems, trained on millions of languages and dialects, have failed. They can detect patterns, they can cluster symbols into likely words, but they cannot assign meaning. The script behaves like real language, but it refuses to connect to anything in the human record. The most chilling theory? That it is a real language, one whose speakers, culture, and entire world have been erased so completely that this book is the only surviving echo. Without a Rosetta Stone, without a parallel text, it could remain sealed forever. For over 100 years, each attempt to read it has ended the same way. The code holds, and the reader is left staring into silence. Whispers and theories. For every mind that has tried and failed to crack the Voynich Manuscript, a theory has been born. Some are cautious and scholarly. Others belong to the realm of shadows. The lost herbal theory suggests the manuscript was once a medicinal guide from a civilization erased by time. The plants, though unrecognizable, may have been native to a part of the world whose ecosystem has long since vanished. If true, the book could contain cures, formulas, and treatments lost forever, unless we learn to read it. Then there is the secret society hypothesis. In the 15th and 16th centuries, certain esoteric groups guarded their knowledge jealously. The idea goes that the Voynich manuscript may have been a coded manual for initiates, hidden from the church, protected from outsiders. Some even suspect the elaborate illustrations of women in baths are symbolic, part of rituals never meant for public eyes. The astronomical codex theory takes a different path. The strange star charts, planetary alignments, and diagrams could map a cosmology not of our own Earth, but of another sky entirely. Was this an astronomical record of another world, or perhaps a prophetic vision of a future yet to come? And then, the most controversial, the alien origin theory. Its believers argue that the plants are unearthly. The women are not women at all, but symbolic figures for biological systems, and the language is the written form of a non-human species. To them, the book is not a relic of the past, but a message or warning from beyond our planet. Of course, skeptics remain. They say it's nothing more than an elaborate hoax, a creation of a bored medieval genius who knew how to mimic the statistical patterns of real language without saying anything at all. But to hold the book in your hands, to see the precision of its writing, the vividness of its illustrations, is to doubt the idea that it was mere nonsense. And perhaps that's the most dangerous theory of all, that the manuscript is not meant to be understood, that its very purpose is to tempt us, to keep us staring into its pages, chasing a truth that will never arrive. Because the more you look, the more it feels as though it's not you reading the book. It's the book reading you. The book goes digital for centuries. The Voynich manuscript had been a prize only for the privileged few, locked behind library doors, traded between collectors, glimpsed only in candlelight. But in the early 2000s, that changed. Yale University's Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library, the manuscript's current home, decided to digitize it. Every page was photographed in stunning high resolution, and for the first time in history, the whole world could stare into its mysteries. It was a quiet revolution. Students, historians, conspiracy theorists, and curious strangers all downloaded the scans, zooming into the tiniest brushstroke. Forums erupted with speculation. Reddit threads grew into sprawling archives of amateur research. And yet, for all the fresh eyes, the result was the same. No one could read it. Some claimed progress, a partial decoding, a hint of meaning, but each theory eventually collapsed under scrutiny. The manuscript seemed to absorb interpretation, swallowing ideas whole and spitting them back out as contradictions. Then came the stranger stories. People who spent long nights staring at its symbols claimed to dream of the plants in vivid detail, as if they'd touched them. Others reported waking with phrases in their heads that matched the looping shapes of the script, phrases in no known language. One programmer swore that after training his AI model on the manuscript's text, the system began producing sentences that weren't part of the original pages, as if it was adding to the book. Whether these are coincidences, the result of overworked minds, or something else entirely, no one can say. But the effect is undeniable. The Voynich Manuscript does not just sit quietly in a vault anymore. It has gone global, and in doing so, it has begun to interact with people in ways no one expected. And perhaps that's the most unsettling development yet. Because for the first time, it feels like the book is watching us back. The psychology of the unsolvable. There's something strange about the human mind. We are drawn to patterns, to puzzles, to the faint promise that somewhere inside the chaos, there's meaning. Psychologists call it apophenia, our tendency to see connections where none may exist. It's what makes us spot shapes in clouds or hear messages when a record plays backward. The Voynich Manuscript is apophenia's masterpiece, a mirror that reflects back whatever we most want to see. For the botanist, it whispers of undiscovered plants. For the astronomer, it hints at hidden worlds. For the conspiracy theorist, it becomes a map to forbidden truths. And yet, beneath all those interpretations, there's a deeper pull, one that has little to do with solving the puzzle and everything to do with the chase. Studies show that our brains release dopamine not when we find answers, but when we're close to finding them. That sense of almost knowing is addictive. The Voynich Manuscript offers that feeling endlessly. Every strange diagram, every curve of its alien script, dangles a key in front of us, then snatches it away. We keep turning the pages because the next one might be it, the page where the lock finally clicks open. But it never does, and maybe that's the point. The manuscript doesn't give us answers. It sustains the question. It's a perfect paradox. The more we seek, the further the truth slips away, yet the more we want to keep seeking. And somewhere deep inside, a part of us wonders, if the mystery were solved tomorrow, would we feel satisfied? Or would we miss the pursuit? The Voynich Manuscript seems to know the answer. The false victories. Over the last century, there have been moments when the world held its breath. Moments when it seemed the Voynich Manuscript's iron wall of secrecy had finally cracked. One of the first came in the 1940s, when a scholar claimed the script was simply an abbreviated form of Latin, used by medieval scribes to save space. His translation, he insisted, revealed herbal recipes and astrological notes. But when other experts examined his method, they found it could translate the text into almost any sentence one wanted. A sign of wishful thinking, not linguistic precision. In the 1970s, a team announced that statistical analysis had revealed the book's structure matched an Asian language family, possibly Chinese or Vietnamese, but encoded phonetically. The theory gained traction until researchers tested it against actual words from those languages, and the patterns fell apart. In 2017, headlines around the globe lit up. Voynich Manuscript finally decoded. A Canadian academic claimed it was written in a form of proto-Romance language, and that he could read entire sections about herbal baths and female health. But linguists quickly dismantled the claim, pointing out glaring inconsistencies and invented grammar rules designed to fit the theory. Even artificial intelligence has taken a shot. In 2019, a team fed the manuscript into a neural network trained on hundreds of languages. The algorithm guessed it was most similar to Hebrew, but when researchers tried to translate it, The results read like scrambled poetry, beautiful yet meaningless. Each of these breakthroughs sparked excitement, drew media attention, and then faded into silence. The book stood unchanged, untouched by the noise around it. It's as though the Voynich is playing a long game, allowing us to believe we've caught it, just long enough for hope to rise, before reminding us who is in control. And perhaps the cruelest twist of all? Every failed solution only makes the mystery stronger. The book with no reader. What if the greatest mystery of the Voynich Manuscript isn't what it says, but why it exists? Every book has an audience, a reader it's meant to reach. But the Voynich? Its reader may have never existed, or worse, its reader may have been one person, long dead, leaving the rest of us locked out forever. Some researchers believe this could be an autographic manuscript, a book written for a single mind, perhaps its authors, in a language only they could understand. Not a cipher, not a code, but a private world captured in ink. To anyone else, it is nothing more than shapes and colors. Others push the idea further, suggesting the manuscript might be a ritual object. Its power lies not in its meaning, but in the act of engaging with it, forcing the mind into a state of endless search, drawing the reader deeper into its patterns until days, weeks, even years have slipped away. And then there's the unsettling whisper in certain corners of the internet that the book is a deliberate trap, a test designed to measure patience, obsession, and endurance, that it was never about herbs or stars or languages at all, but about us, the ones who can't look away. Because when you hold it, even in digital form, there is a strange pull, a sense that you've stepped into someone else's labyrinth. The script loops and curls, the drawings shift from the familiar to the impossible, and you begin to wonder if you're tracing the steps of a mind that didn't want to be followed. What if the Voynich manuscript isn't waiting to be solved? What if solving it was never the point? If that's true, then the greatest danger is not that we'll never understand it, but that we'll keep trying anyway. The mystery that will outlive us all more than a century has passed since Wilfrid Voynich first cradled the strange vellum-bound book in his hands. In that time, empires have fallen, technology has leapt forward, entire languages have been resurrected from dust, and yet, this single manuscript remains sealed, untouched by understanding. It has been studied by emperors and alchemists, by wartime codebreakers and 21st century supercomputers. The result is always the same, a silence that feels less like absence and more like defiance. Perhaps one day a new Rosetta Stone will be uncovered, a companion text that unlocks every page. Perhaps some quantum algorithm yet to be invented will peel back its code. But if history has shown us anything, it's that the Voynich manuscript plays by rules we don't understand, rules that may not even exist in our reality. Because for all our efforts, the manuscript remains what it has always been, a mirror. We look into it, and we see what we bring with us. Our hopes, our fears, our unquenchable hunger for answers. And maybe that is why it has survived so long. Because unlike other books, it is never truly finished. It writes itself anew in the mind of every reader, reshaping its meaning with each attempt to decipher it. One day, you might forget the details of its pages, the impossible plants, the star maps that lead nowhere, the women floating in emerald pools. But you will not forget the feeling, that sense that the answer was right there, just out of reach. The Voynich manuscript is more than a puzzle. It is a reminder that not everything was made for us to understand, and not every door was meant to be opened. And so it sits, quietly, in a temperature-controlled vault in New Haven, Connecticut. Pages pressed together, ink still vibrant after centuries, waiting for the next mind to try, waiting for the next failure, waiting for you. The truth is, the Voynich Manuscript doesn't need to be solved to win. It has already done what no other book has managed. It has made us need it. It sits beyond the reach of translation, beyond the comfort of certainty, and yet it pulls us closer, not to give us answers, but to remind us how much we crave them. In 1,000 years, when the languages we speak today are nothing but faint echoes, the Voynich will still be here. Its pages will still hum with the same quiet defiance. And whoever finds it then will feel exactly what you feel now, that strange, almost electric sensation of standing at the edge of understanding and looking down into the dark. Some mysteries are meant to be solved, others are meant to outlast us, and this is one of them. Stay connected with the next mystery, right here on Nexora.